Welcome back to the Just Misha podcast. I'm super excited that you are here, and I have to be very transparent. So, I actually recorded this podcast yesterday, but after I recorded it, I didn't feel like I stayed true to my mission, which is I want to have very transparent conversations. I want it to feel like we're just talking. I don't want to come off as like an authority figure. I want you to feel as if you're just sitting down beside me and we are just having a conversation. It is so that to me is when we are our authentic selves, that's when we make true connection. And that is what I wanted to do with this podcast. And I did my podcast yesterday. I did my makeup, I look presentable. Wearing makeup, that's fine. I want to look presentable. I feel I take very seriously, but the style of the podcast that I did yesterday was not, I feel, true to my mission. To me, it came more off like authority figure and everything like that. And I don't want it to be like that. I want you to feel like you are sitting down, just having a conversation with me, and I'm just being my purest, truest form, which is crazy and a hot mess here and there. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to come back in. I'm going to re-record this podcast and do it how I really intended to do it. And I have no makeup on. Actually, I have like leftover makeup from yesterday. I'm in my Gilmore Girls t-shirt. I would have been wearing my Golden Girls t-shirt, but it's being washed. So you're just getting the rawest form of me today. Okay. So last week I said that we were going to talk about toxic health culture. And I kind of want to like dive a little bit into this a little deeper than just, the obvious, which is I feel we're constantly being sold something. I feel that is very much what is happening is there's this huge push for consumerism. And I just wanted to make sure that when I came on here today that I talked about this, that I wanted to share a little bit of my experience in the health and wellness space. So like I said, I got into health back in 2013. I feel many health people, you kind of start off on this whole vegetarian going vegan mindset. And when I first was getting into the health space, there was not this huge social media influencer culture that we have right now. Like there was none of that. And it was very much like you learned your stuff from documentaries or books and, just word of mouth. You didn't really know anything. So I'm pretty sure not big pharma, but big agriculture, the big food industry, all of them were probably happier back in those days because we probably weren't nearly as informed as we are now. And in a way, I almost feel so much knowledge in ways can be harmful because think about it. There is an influencer for every possible style of diet there possibly is on the planet Earth. And then on top of that, like you have platforms actually, I think almost every social media platform, the amount of countries and cultures and everything else of how people eat and how they live. So we're constantly being bombarded with information left and right. And it's so overwhelming. I think I've probably jumped down every rabbit hole there is when it comes to our food industry or just our food in general, different lifestyles. I started off vegetarian, or maybe it was pescatarian. I think I started off pescatarian, then I went vegetarian, and then I was down the whole vegan lifestyle rabbit hole for a very, very long time. And I just came out of that, I think within the last 2 years that I came out of the vegan lifestyle. For a brief period, I was, maybe I'll try carnivore, maybe I'll try strictly animal based, and now I will tell you, my way of how I view food is, even for me, I still feel it is hard for me to even answer that because, and unfortunately, I feel like I know a little too much about health sometimes that it's like a double-edged sword, basically. So for me now, I just do the best that I can. I'm very much like I said in my last podcast, balance. It's all about balance to me. I don't try to do a certain type of diet or feel like I have to eat a certain way or cut out a whole food group. I am not doing any of that. Like, I refuse to do any of that. Um, so I would say, like, right, I cannot stand diet culture. I'll be the first one to tell you, I cannot stand diet culture. So I don't claim a specific diet. You know, I'll be the first, my husband will, oh, hold on. I have to make an announcement. My husband told me that when I refer to him as the model. And if anyone knows my husband, you understand how I'm rolling my eyes right now. So anyways, like, my husband will be the first one to tell you, I love Chick-fil-A. Like, I could be a Chick-fil-A advocate every day of the week. Like, I really could. But I also know that Chick-fil-A is not healthy remotely. Okay. So literally me eating Chick-fil-A is simply just because I love Chick-fil-A, not because I'm hoping anything positive is coming out of this experience. That is not how I look at Chick-fil-A. Like, that's just an indulgence. And, you know, you'll have people who will tell you, don't ever touch fast food. Don't ever consume sugar. Don't ever do this. Don't do this. Can't do this. It'll cause this. It'll cause cancer. You can already tell in my voice how I'm talking. Like, it gets very chaotic and overwhelming. Who would want to follow any type of lifestyle like that's so restrictive, that is so a rope around your neck? You know, why? And as humans, we're also the type that, you know, if they say don't do it, what do we want to do? We want to touch the red button. Even though it says don't touch, we want to touch. You know, that's just how we operate. So I firmly believe in a balanced lifestyle, where you indulge. Like, let's say you're on vacation, go have fun. I am not going to be the type of person. I just went on vacation a few weeks ago. Do you think that I remotely stopped and like, oh, well, I can't eat this. This is not a part of my, like, my diet. I can't eat. No, I am not that person. Give me all the foods. I want it all. I'll have a couple of drinks. You know, I don't care. I am also the type of person who's going to live my life. So with that being said, I feel the health culture has gotten super toxic in ways because it's almost this all or nothing mentality. And I'm a Capricorn, so it was very, very easy for me to be an all or nothing mentality. But also, what happens with that is you binge out on something and then you burn out on something. So we go from binge to burn, and that does not work either. So, you know, it is really important to find your medium, find your happy place. If a friend invites me out to dinner, I'm going to go out and I'm going to enjoy myself. And I'm not going to sit here and think about every solitary ingredient that's probably in my food at that very moment. And, you know, like, even in my last podcast, I was saying, just because you eat the healthiest that you can possibly eat on planet Earth does not mean that it's going to necessarily prevent you from, you know, dying any sooner or later. You know what I'm saying? That's just, I'm not going to choose to live my life like that. Yes, I don't want to have disease. Yes, I want to be healthy. I want to thrive. I want to have energy, all the things. But you know what also takes your energy and your youthfulness is also being so obsessive with food in general. And the reason why I even say that in general is because I have done that for so long. When I was owning my business with Livy Juice, I felt that I had to be this, like, perfect pillar of health. I felt like I had to be this person who did not eat anything bad. Like, I remember before I even, like, came out and said, it's crazy that we even feel that we had to do this, but, like, when I was no longer a vegan, you know, like, we were having meat and hiding almost. Like, I remember, like, one time we went to Chick-fil-A and I was like, if someone saw me, you know, like, I'm caught, like, red-handed. But mainly because I just didn't feel like I could be all of me without being judged, because I had created kind of like this whole persona, and I've seen it happen over and over again. There was a girl years ago. I remember years ago, there was a girl who what was her name? I don't want to call out her name because I don't want to bring energy or focus to something like that. But anyway, she was a vegan influencer on YouTube and she got caught eating fish. And at the time, I believe she had to start eating fish because of some omega or something she was deficient in or whatever. But anyway, she got caught with it and it was this whole scandal amongst the vegan world. And it's ridiculous that people feel that they can't be themselves because you're going to get hated on and judged on because you're not doing something a certain way. And I will say I mainly have seen that within the vegan world. And I get it because the vegan world is built on very kind of strict, belief system. There's the animals at play and all of this stuff. So I get why it is such a strict lifestyle. And while I will say I live my lifestyle for the most part pretty vegan, but my diet is 100% not vegan. And that is because of the animals. I actually am not vegan because I actually care about the planet, that's going to make no sense to vegans, but like I said, it's all good. I'm not here to hate on how you eat. That's not what I'm trying to do here. But like I said, when I came out of that, it was like coming out of the closet in a way. Like you're so scared of judgment and people hating on you because you chose to see something differently. And I see this so much in the health space. There are so many influencers who represent health and wellness, but you would never hear them talk about like, hey, we got pizza the other day because they're spending an hour long telling you not to eat freaking pizza. And then they go and they have pizza. So if we could just be more authentic, if we could just be more true to ourselves and just be real that we're imperfect humans living life, I'm telling you, I feel life would just be so much simpler and it'd be so much more easier. But because we have these people who are claiming this perfectionism in the health space, it is problematic. It really is. And I think is setting up unrealistic standards and expectations on everyone else who's listening to them. And that's why I refuse to be a health influencer. I refuse to have a podcast built around health because it put me in such a box that I felt like I couldn't just be a regular human who likes hard kombucha here and there and who, likes to have pizza and burgers and spaghetti. Like I want to be real and authentic in all the ways. And I felt like if I just strictly was stuck with health, like it would be a not health podcast because I would kind of be speaking out against the things that I see currently happening in the space. So some of the other stuff that I feel like I see too is this consumerism constantly that we are being sold a different supplement and vitamin and oh, this is going to help you with this and this is going to be the life-changing device and all of this stuff. And I'm sorry, I don't buy into half of it, truthfully. I'm not saying there aren't things that are probably great and work and are beneficial to you, but I would just go out on a limb and say that I don't think that a good portion of it is going to be worth the amount of money you're going to spend. I don't feel like you need your own sauna room and you need, you can take cold baths or whatever at home, or you need, spending hundreds of dollars every single month on supplements that's going to help with your hair and your skin. And, it's going to completely restore your gut health. And this is going to give you all your fruits and vegetables in one serving. I just don't buy it. I'm sorry. I just think that health would be so much simpler if you just focus on the foods you eat and live your life. Because again, to be truly healthy, not just the food side of things, but to be truly healthy, it's many aspects of, your life. It's your relationships. It is your career. It is your, your home life, your environment, your friendships, what you choose to learn about every single day. There is so many different layers to health that it's not just strictly the food you consume. If anything, food is truly secondary to all the other areas of your life that, make you a healthy person. And also, I think relationships are big. Connection is one. Feeling seen is one. I feel like we live in a world where we're constantly feeling we don't fit in and we're not enough. So, that stuff to me is way more important than, what I ate for dinner today. Not saying that food's not important, because I am going to kind of dive into where I feel you should spend your money on, but I don't think that we need to be so caught up in this like perfectionism of health. Like, I can see how we can get so obsessive about something, like, oh, I didn't do my workout today. Oh my gosh, I got to get my workout in. Like, people can get very obsessive with being like their idea version of healthy, that it can be toxic. And so that's why, I say just pay like attention to, are you buying into this whole perfectionism that they're selling? Because I just like that would, to me, that's just exhausting. Like, to do all the things, and I've done it for years. So that's why I say that. Like, when I owned my business, I tried so hard to be this version of perfection of health. And let me tell you, that was when I was the most unhealthiest. My hair was falling out in clumps. I was stressed to the max. I barely saw my freaking family. I was not remotely thriving in any way, shape, or form. So that's why I'm telling you, while I was putting on this perception that I was living this ideal version of health, of health. And because I had a juice bar, people expected me to be this person who understood health. And while I did, but yeah, I wasn't healthy, which is why, a big reason why I closed down my business, because I was not thriving. I was not healthy in my ideal version of healthy. So I would just define, what does health actually mean to you? Don't be so obsessive. Pick your happy medium. If you're going to spend money on health, do you want to spend it on supplements, or do you actually want to spend it on the food you are buying? Me personally, I'd rather buy the best quality of food I can buy for my home. And then I also like to have money to go out and eat and have good meals. However, it's been a long time since I went out to a restaurant lately that was actually blow your mind away good. So I do feel the restaurant food quality has gone down. So I'm still on the hunt for meals that were, wow, that was fantastic. We literally went to Disney World a couple weeks ago, and the food was the most disappointing thing. I remember as a kid, I thought the food was so great, and I couldn't wait to go back to Disney World and because I hadn't been to Disney World since I was a kid. And so I was so excited. I was like, yeah, I'm looking forward to the food, and get down there and I'm eating the food and I'm like, this sucks. It was overpriced and it was just very basic and bland. It wasn't that great. So I'm on the hunt for foods that are mind blowing in flavor, but I need to follow Keith Lee. That's what I need to do. I need to follow the places Keith Lee goes and try them, because at least I feel like I'll get a good meal. But yeah, for me personally, if I'm going to spend money on my health, I'm going to do it in the way of, buying the best quality meat I can buy, going to the farmers markets and getting, fresh local produce. That's where I'm going to go spend my dollar. I'm going to spend my money on having a gym membership, or paying for meditation events and stuff like that. That's where I'm mostly going to put my money on. It's never, for the most part, supplements. I used to buy into this idea of, oh, well, I'm going to buy this supplement because I think it's going to change my life, and it's going to make my hair do this and my skin do this. And, I sell it to my husband to get it. And then I'm disappointed when I get it, because I'm not going to commit to this. One, I'm not good with pills. So there's one reason why I just don't care for it. But if I did have to do a supplement, it would be magnesium, because most of us are like deficient in magnesium. So I would most likely do a magnesium supplement. But other than that, like, forget about it. I'm not putting my money there. Another thing too, an app that I use that I think is helpful is the Yuka app. A lot of people have it. I just came on the game to Yuka a month and a half ago, and I actually really enjoy it because it does a lot of the middleman work for you, so you don't have to do it yourself. It will sit here and tell you if this food has a lot of additives, if this food is high in fat, or too much sugar or whatever. It gives you a lot of details, and so it's really good with food and beauty products. They haven't put on cleaning products yet, so that's another thing that I look at, is cleaning products. So they don't do that, unfortunately. And the other thing is, they don't weed out seed oils. So you might look up a food and it will give you a pretty good rating for the food, but you still kind of have to look at that label and see if it has seed oils like canola oil, vegetable oil, sunflower oil, stuff like that. Because it doesn't flag the bad oils. So that's the only like disclaimer I would have about that app. But other than that, I think it's really good. So other things that I actually do kind of spend money on to have a better product is cleaning supplies. Like I do try to get like the cleanest cleaning supplies I can get, shampoo and conditioner, deodorant, toothpaste. Like those are the things I rather kind of spend a little extra money on to get the better quality of those things. I don't really buy junk food. I don't. My daughter has a couple snacks that she gets, and I still try to get the healthiest version of those snacks. But I am not a snacker, so that's not one of those things that I'm going to necessarily spend my money on. But I would say for the most part, spend my money on like the meat that I buy. And like I said, I try to outsource as much of my produce as I can. If I'm like focusing on health, but also try to not buy in to the whole sales pitch. And here's one thing to look at when you're listening to some of these health like influencers. And granted, there are some that are good, but listen for some of the contradictions that might take place. Like, let's say that they're telling you a whole podcast on a product to avoid, like, like glyphosate is a big thing that people are trying to avoid because it's inflammatory, it's cancer causing, it's not a good thing to have in your food. And so a lot of people are trying to avoid glyphosate, which is a very good reason. But if they're sitting here preaching about it in a episode, but then one of their brands that they're being sponsored by has glyphosate, or maybe they're not organic or whatever the case, well, there's a red flag right there to should you probably get that product or are they just selling it because they're getting paid to sell that product, so you have to be aware of that. And also, this is going to be more of like a mindset thing, but like, don't act as if you are this victim. So over the years, I've taken a lot of courses when it comes to business, when it comes to if I wanted to be a coach or whatever the case to be, and how to properly sell to you. One of the biggest secrets of when it comes to selling and marketing is pain points. They are literally targeting you based on your weaknesses. So if you feel like you've been struggling with like acne, well, they are going to target certain words and things that you use so that you would buy that product. And maybe you do need that product. Great, wonderful. That's kind of the whole point of marketing and sales. But just be mindful. Are you being sold to because you're in a super vulnerable state right now? And, I just think we should come from a place of being empowered to make the best choices for ourselves. I don't feel like we should always constantly feel like we're this victim who needs a solution. I feel that when it comes to someone's health is such an individualized thing for each person. Like what works for my body might not work for your body, and that's okay. Maybe you thrive on a carnivore diet, or maybe you thrive in a vegan diet, and that doesn't work for me. There's nothing wrong with diversity. But I think when we're constantly being sold that, oh, well, this worked for me, so I know it's going to work for you, that is a problem, because our bodies are so bio-individual that in our genetics and everything else is so unique to us that we really kind of have to be the own investigators when it comes to our health and our balance. There are people who can literally smoke a pack of cigarettes all day long, eat bacon, drink vodka, and live well into their 90s and 100s. Actually, one of my favorite human beings on the planet, well, she's not on this planet anymore, but Betty White. Betty White was notorious for talking about how she loved vodka and she loved hot dogs. And that was things she constantly consumed. And we know how long she lived. I'm just going to go ahead and give her props. She lived into her hundreds, even though she died at 99. She lived into her hundreds because we're going to count those leap years, and that gives her extra years. So, but yeah, like that's the stuff that like I'm saying is that find what works for you. Find your middle ground, find your balance, and don't feel like you are this victim that constantly needs sold something. And granted, these are just things that I've noticed that I find to be just annoying and toxic because I feel people are constantly spending so much money for nothing. I did it. I did it for years. I was constantly being bought into something, sold something. If it was like a coaching program, if it was a supplement, I've spent so much money on this stuff and it's got me nowhere near closer to anything than where I was. So I finally just got to this place where I started telling myself that maybe I'm not as unhealthy as I built up in my head, because for me, I feel like I almost made myself sick because of all these things that I was listening to. Maybe I'm just building this stuff up in my head. Like maybe I'm just really not that freaking bad off. But when you're constantly listening to something that, well, if you're consuming this, you're having all these issues, you're constantly being sold sickness. That is what's happening. The health industry is selling us sickness, so you have to buy from them to be healthy when you might not really be that unhealthy to begin with. I feel like I just had my own aha moment. Why this stuff is so frustrating is because I feel like for years I've been being sold to that there's something wrong with me and I need something out there to fix it. And when I actually don't, I actually feel pretty good. You know what? My stress levels are down. I naturally know what to do. Lately, I've just been doing the best right action for myself. I haven't felt like I've needed to do a whole lot of extra things to feel good. And my energy, and I feel like my energy has been pretty stable, and I feel mentally I felt stable, and I'm just doing very simple things. And that's actually all while I'm going through something very personal that I actually will share 2 episodes from now. So that is a podcast for 2 episodes from now. But, and I'm going through all of this and yet still somehow feeling my best, because you know what? I'm not judging myself. I'm loving myself from where I am, and I feel good about it. I haven't been listening to health podcasts lately either, too. So I'm not constantly being obsessed about every little thing, especially in the United States. We just gotta face it. There is poison in every direction we look, okay? So we can either be fearful of it, or we can just say, you know what, I'm just going to make the best choices that I can where I am right now. And that to me, I feel honestly is good enough. I really do believe that is good enough. Mind over matter. That's what they say. So we're going to go with that. So anyways, I think I'm going to wrap it up there. I think I've done enough ranting for this episode. And like I said, don't fear what you're constantly being sold. Don't feel like you have to spend countless money on things. If you really want to be your healthiest self, start simple. Don't be so complex about it. Don't do all or nothing. That all or nothing mentality, honestly, it doesn't work. I've done it for years. I know other people who've done it for years. It's just forget about it. The less we start obsessing about things, the easier life will get, because we're not being so resistant to the natural state and the natural flow of our lives. And I think that's what really matters. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there. Go easy on yourself. That is where it's at. I do want to go ahead and give you an update of next week's podcast. Next week, we are going to talk about anxiety. It is no secret that I've had anxiety for 9 years now. And I actually want to talk about that. I want to share that journey, share that story. And that podcast is for anyone who deals with anxiety, anyone who has a loved one in their lives that deal with anxiety, and anyone who just wants to better understand people who have anxiety. So that podcast is going to be really good. It's going to be a personal story, and I'm going to share, my experience with it, things that I've tried with it, and just how I feel you can better understand someone who has anxiety, because it's not easy. If you don't deal with anxiety, it is one of those really hard things to truly understand. And I'm going to explain it and hopefully help you understand it a little bit better than maybe you have before. So that is my mission with next week's episode. And if you enjoy this podcast, if you like this podcast, feel free to subscribe to whichever place you listen to the podcast at, and leave a review, share it with a friend. The more that we can share these conversations, I feel the better off the world is going to be, because I feel we get seen. I feel like we get heard. And I really genuinely believe that vulnerability is our superpower. And the more that we can be our most vulnerable selves, the better off we are in life in general. So that is my mission. But I'm actually really, really glad I came back and re-recorded this podcast, because I felt like I got to share really how I feel about things. And I didn't want, like I said, I didn't want to come on here being like a typical health influencer and, just share how I'm going to make your life better. But instead I want to relate with people how I know other people out here feel. And that was my mission for today. So I thank you very much for listening to this podcast, and we will see you next week. When I say we, I mean you and me. That we will be back here next week, and I will talk to you on Thursday. Have a great day.